Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Daniel McComber, and with me today is Jeremy Lieber, the founder of Uncommon Education.
What's up, man?
It's good to have you, dude.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Well, we've been connected through a mutual great friend of ours, Corey Clark, and he's just said so much good things about you. And it's funny, as I was kind of like looking you up, I was realizing, yeah, we have a pretty similar past.
Yep.
Started like in the sales industry, and then, doing new things, trying different things. And so, yeah, if you could just tell me a little bit about kind of what you do, like where you came from, a little bit on the sales side of things, and then your past on that.
Yeah, totally. So door-to-door sales is where started in my sales career. Well, actually, it was a couple weeks in a call center where I was selling DirecTV and Dish Network. It was just the most absurd thing ever. The dude ended up being a crook, but that was like my first exposure to sales. But
Nice.
I realized there, I was like, man, like sales is cool. I can see the potential, right? So got into door-to-door, did pest control for 5 years with GreenX Pest Control. And then when, the sales organization kind of split and the grit started, RID, those types of things, I became the VP of sales for Proof Pest Control. Was there for 2 years, and now just do Uncommon Education and day trade full time.
Yeah, that's an amazing transition.
Thanks. Yeah, it's
that's
fun.
Awesome. Well, it's funny that you say that the first few weeks you had that crazy experience. My first summer was with a company and ended up just being terrible, and ended up being sued actually by the company later. I tried to leave.
Classic.
It's I feel like a lot of the guys who make it pretty far in our industry have that kind of rough beginning, and it's almost like, hey, this is the worst it can get probably, so anything else other than this can probably just be uphill. Did you have feelings like that too?
Totally. Well, I think the big thing is just they're not going to stop or they're not going to quit mindset, right? Because every door-to-door rep has that story. Some blitz they went on, some recruiting meeting they had, but those who stick it out and actually succeed are those who push through objections and obstacles, which is, that's right. How the job works. So
yeah, no, that's totally true. Well, yeah, I mean, being a VP at a pest control company, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, a lot of guys aspire to do that like their whole careers, and once they get it, the last thing they think they want to do is leave it. And so I guess what are some of the things that kind of helped you get to that VP position, and like some lessons that you learned while you were there?
So leading up to when I went to Proof and left GreenX, in between there, I also did a few blitzes with Vivint, worked a summer, like half summer with Aptiv, potential different roles. And I think ultimately what's cool about transitioning into a role like I was in at Proof, that VP role, is it's the same thing I was doing when I was managing teams, leading, building there. It was just on a company-wide level. And so for those who, have that goal in mind, in the door-to-door space, you just got to perfect your craft of managing teams and producing, successful results there, having good retention of reps, a successful output during the summer, a really good team culture. And I just felt like I did a really good job of that while managing teams, which then led to being able to do it on a company-wide level for a couple of years, which was, a big goal of mine in the space. And it was good, like you say, as far as in the sales world, it's kind of where you want to get to, right? The salary, the company car, not having to knock, traveling around. It was really an awesome experience. And, both at GreenX and Proof had a really good experience with everyone involved.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. So, yeah, I mean, you're there, the crazy thing is that I feel like people either have a talent for it, or I guess a desire, passion for like kind of the recruiting and management side of things, or they don't, or they try it for like year after year. They try to bring their friends on, they try to recruit people, and then it gets to the point where they're just like, okay, well, no one's sticking, and I'm just making money on my own things, so I'm just going to keep doing that. So I guess where do you think that you stood out on like, helping mold teams and mold people?
Yeah, I think a big thing is I would call myself a very genuine person, where if I'm interacting with you, like, you will pretty quickly come to learn I'm not expecting anything in return. And I'm such the opinion of the abundance mentality, where it's like, if you give and you are willing to do things just because it's going to help the betterment of, the whole, or it's going to be good for, a long-term play, but may not immediately benefit you in the moment. If you can be that guy, that is all companies are looking for leaders, because what you end up getting in return is actually way more than if you were to try to put that at the forefront, and people can just see that so easily. So I think with me, we built a lot of trust on the teams that I managed. I feel like we had a lot of fun from a cultural perspective. I really don't think that there's a group out there that had as much fun as we would, and
nice.
just thoroughly enjoyed what we were doing. So I think that that's what stood out more than anything is people knew when they were with me, I didn't have some ulterior motive behind recruiting. It's like, hey, I want you to come, and I'm going to be up front. I will make money if you come with me, but I want you to come because I think you do really well, and it's going to be a blast, and we're going to have a ton of fun. As opposed to trying to position it in a way where, but on the back end, I'm making out, and you work for me. It's like, no. People hate that, and no one wants to be a part of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's it's kind of like the charity thing, right? Like you give to charity because it's helping the people, but then you in return get so much from it, right? Not only tax benefits, but all the good feelings and stuff like that.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's a pretty different. I want to say like this, to be frank, every kind of regional or whatever is going to say that same story. I care about the people and stuff. But the actions speak louder than words, I suppose. And so I truly believe everything you said, but I guess what was kind of like the reason for leaving a position like that then?
Yeah. And kind of to your last point is, if you want to know, because everyone does say that, every manager says that, but if you want to know if they actually live it, are they in a president of sales role? Are they running a company? And if they're not, they're probably not doing those things that you're talking about, right? Or they're early on in their career.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's just a byproduct. If you are doing that, the results will come about. You will get put in that position of leadership because people can see it, and they're not, it's not portraying a false reality of what actually is going on.
Yeah. So you're saying if a guy's been doing it for a long time and he's just kind of stagnant growth or no growth, and then it's probably a good sign that, then
he may not be living what he's saying. Exactly.
That's good to know.
But in regards to leaving it, and that's what's so funny, and that's what's cool about with this podcast, I preface it by saying yes, for all intents and purposes, it was as good as it gets in door to door. But man, sometimes only once a week, but usually 2, 3, 4 times a week, I would have to take some nonsense call. I'd be in some meeting. I'd have to go do something that, the owner or the boss was telling me to do that I thought was, didn't agree with, but I had to do it. And it was just enough to just be man, I can't live this way.
Yeah.
A lot of people can, but my whole kind of what we teach at Uncommon Education is freedom is wealth. I literally don't care how much money people have. It's if you don't get to do what you want to do, you're not wealthy to me, because it's all the money in the world, but you have to report to someone. You can't just wake up and do what you want that day. To me, that's not a reality I want to live. And so even though it was only once, twice, sometimes 3, 4 times a week, it just drove me nuts. And luckily I had been day trading and building this business the entire time I was in door to door. So it wasn't something that I just, said, okay, I'm going to do this today and start fresh.
Yeah.
I realized the opportunity that door to door was, but very early on, I realized that it was not a long-term play. And so all the while, I had 8 months of off season in pest control to, do other things. I dove in headfirst into day trading, got good at it, built the business. And honestly, what it came to was when I was in that role at Proof, I was just making enough from trading and the business to where it just didn't make sense to continue working at Proof.
Oh, nice.
And so it was just a nice transition to be able to say hey, this thing's kind of gotten something that I didn't even fully anticipate it ever getting to.
Yeah.
It's been awesome, but just I don't think that I'm the guy anymore because of what I know is required for this job and what I'm willing to do for it. So.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, how did you get even connected to the idea of day trading? Because here's the thing, day trading is kind of one of those jokes. It's just go be a day trader. It's it sounds so easy and it has all the perks, but it's extremely hard. And most people lose their shirt on day trading. So I'll put it this way. Everyone's got a Robinhood account, right? Where they can day trade.
Totally.
And so, I mean, they have something kind of like that, but how did you get introduced into the idea of going all the way?
Early on, just knowing the way my brain worked, like I was terrible at school, just barely got enough to basically stay on the football team and,
Okay.
do the bare minimum. And so for me, it's always been, how can I capitalize the most with the least amount of effort? Like that's just the way my brain works. It's just like finding ways to make that a reality.
Yeah.
And I could only come up with, sports betting, day trading, drug dealer, right? Professional poker player. Like really, those are about the only things as far as like ease of money. And I thought, man, day trading, I don't know how they're doing it, but those guys are really just clicking buttons and they're making so much money.
Yeah.
And so it just got to a point where I have like obsessive behavior. And so as soon as I like realized like what was there, like kind of that was the what's possible, whatever was in between, I literally didn't care. I was like, I don't care if this takes me 15 years. Like, I don't care if it takes me 3 years. I don't care if it takes me $200,000. Like, people are doing it. I have enough confidence in myself just as a person. Like, I can get there.
Wow.
So it's a little naive to think that way, but that's the reality of how my brain went about it.
That's a pretty typical entrepreneurial mindset, though.
Totally.
Did you see, was it like just Instagram dudes you're following? Did you watch Wolf of Wall Street and that became a passion of yours? Or
no, we're talking back in 2010. I had desire to be day trader. I was, right at the end of high school, 17, 18 years old. And again, what's funny is, I was day trading before day trading was cool. Before it became like, when I was day trading, there was no social media influencers. There was no any of that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, you hear about different people, who have courses, different things. So I did not have immediate success. I went 3 years and, over $50,000 just torched, just figuring it all out. And so
your sales money. So you go,
so I'd go commissions check, dump it in the market, lose most of it.
Gone.
Do it.
My gosh.
And that process was for 3 years. And again, what's so funny about it all is there was no like indication that I was like getting close, right? Like there was no like, I can almost, it's kind of just like, man, I am just getting some mash right now. Like I'm getting obliterated. Yeah. So I should have quit if you looked at it from like how normal people think. But like I told you, it was just like, no, I'm not going to quit. What do you mean? Like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then I made some discipline changes in my life, really focusing on like, okay, here's what I've learned over these 3 years. Here's what I need to develop. Started finding some success. And then kind of just before I knew it, 1 month, looked back, I'm like, wow, I made this much money this month. That's cool. And then was able to, continue on from there.
Yeah. So was it really just kind of like the education side of it, or was it like learning skills or just having experience? How much do those three things kind of play into what you do?
So anyone who day trades or has tried day trading knows the actual like idea of day trading is so simple, right? It's simply, buy it, whatever it is, stock, option, Forex, crypto, whatever it is, and sell it when it's higher. And you buy it in a moment where, you feel like it's undervalued. Like that is the basic understanding.
Buy low, sell high.
Exactly. Yeah. People in the stock market. But when you throw in emotions and you throw in money, one thing that people, just the human race is so bad at is having ridiculous emotional attachments to money.
Right.
So as a day trader, you are risking money. So that means there's a chance that you lose, there's a chance that you win, but regardless, money's involved. And so I always compare it to the movie Inside Out, right? Like all the voices in your head, like as a day trader, like that red, like rage or like the fear, it just kicks in, it takes over. And, you'll look at people who are so smart, so much smarter than me, but they just like can't control their emotions. They're horrible at day trading. And so it's much less about the strategies. There's a million strategies that work. There's a million different ways that you can make it work, but it's, can you, from an emotional and kind of mental aspect, handle what day trading does, and most people can't.
Well, how the heck do you take the emotion out of it? I mean, you go do a summer, work your butt off, make money. Like doing door-to-door sales is extremely hard.
Right.
And then you come home and invest that money and lose it. Like, how do you not just freak out or like bring emotion into it?
So luckily for me, and like huge benefit to like the business that I started and what I do for a living, is I am just by nature a massive gambler and a huge risk taker. Like the part of my brain where like the risk probably like fires and tells you like, hey dude, this is not a good risk. Mine is broken. Like I don't really have it at all. Okay. And so the risk, I love it. I love the risk. I love the sink or swim where it's like, hey, if this works, it's going to be so good. But if not, I'm in big trouble. So having that mindset, you kind of have to be an entrepreneur, right? To an extent. But I've luckily, and credit to good parents, credit to a great spouse, I've just never cared about money, right? Like first got married, living in a cabin, piece of trash cars. I was just as happy, honestly, if not more happy then than now. Big house, the cars, freedom, whatever. And I've always said if you took it all away, like I would still be just as happy because I'd still go fly fish and golf at the local muni. And so luckily, again, as someone who was going into a profession where you had to have that emotional disconnect from money, I already kind of had that as part of my personality, and I recognized that, which was a good, like, I don't know, intangible to myself of like, hey, like you can do this, because that's one of the most difficult pieces that most people have a struggle with, but you don't for whatever reason. So like you can do it.
Yes, like as you're learning about it, you're like, maybe you're seeing other people, you're hearing other people like having problems, but you're like, I don't have this problem.
Right.
I'm still cranking. And those are like the small signs that you need as an entrepreneur to continue progressing forward. Like you need little wins or little signs that what you're doing isn't absolutely insane.
Totally. And here's the other thing I tell people is, if you look at like, my social media now and what we do, it's all, I'm just golfing, I'm fishing all day, I'm doing all this, which large in part I am, right, throughout most of the day. But man, especially as we were building Uncommon and, I was working and kind of moving into that VP of sales role, I was grinding. And it's so different even from like the door-to-door sales grind. Because what's funny about door-to-door sales, whether it's pest control, solar, alarms, whatever, your stress level is relatively low. You're at your own pace throughout the day. Yeah. If you want to take a little break, you take a little break. The company typically takes care of all of your stuff for you. Your housing, they give you a little meal budget, little fun budget on the weekend, incentives, right?
Yeah.
It's just such a cush situation. So
all you do is just show up and like do your thing.
You have one task, go sell. Just go sell. And so what's funny is like people think it's hard work, and it is for sure. But when you're doing that, plus, basically an additional full-time / more than full-time job, so you're putting in 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's hard, but luckily for me, we were talking about this beforehand, super loving spouse that helped me along the way, where she, was always in support of whatever I was doing, supporting the craziness, the long work, all of that, which was a huge, factor that went into it. Absolutely. And then just understanding that, like I knew that's what it would take. And I think that most people know that level of work is what it takes to get where they want to be. But again, fear and, their own ego or their own don't want to be, viewed as something, you just have to get rid of all that and just be like, hey, I see that end result. I know that if I put in this much, like I'll get there, and you just have to do it. Yeah.
No, I love that. I mean, when you decided to leave, talk me through that transition period a little bit. I mean, there's got to be people around you that are like, what the crap are you doing? Like you kind of made it and you're going to like toss it away I mean, I guess you'd already had a track record a little bit of like being successful in it, but I mean, how much of I guess resistance or support did you get during that?
Yeah. It's interesting because we were in a position where like, yes, I was making, good money, and yes, things were working both on the day trading side and the business side, but the industry that I'm in is in nature risky, right?
Yeah.
Which starting a business, you already have, 10% success rate, and then on top of that, starting a business and doing it in kind of the field that I do, it's extremely, rare to have people succeed in that regard long term. So I think that for me, I've done a good job of surrounding myself with people that like I view as genuine people and that like do support me. I've always been of the opinion, if like you don't want to be around someone, don't be around them, right? Like that was a huge thing. I remember in our marriage is, these different, they want us to come over for dinner tonight, whatever. And it's like, how many times are people just going over and dinner? And I was like, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I don't really want to either. I'm like, okay, then let's not go. And so we wouldn't go. And so I think that people just like do things out of being courteous or kind or whatever else people say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, if you are surrounding yourself with people who like lift you up and inspire you and build you up, like honestly, when I left, I had nothing but support. Wow. And I had a lot of people as I was building the business and day trading while doing door-to-door, they were like, yeah, you're an idiot. Yeah, you're never going to amount to anything. You need to go get your master's, your MBA, whatever.
Right.
But then, once we're on the other side of it, nothing but support, just because I think I had done a good job of eliminating those people from my life, which is a huge thing. If anyone listening to this, if you're surrounded by people that are bringing you down, who, like, if you think you want to go do something and they would give you resistance, like, get them out of your life. They
Wow.
don't have any place in your life, because they will only bring you down and they will stop you from getting where you want to be.
Man, I love that. I mean, I love the idea of, doing what most people say they're going to do when they do door to door or a sales job. A lot of times, sales jobs do give you a decent amount of freedom to be able to do side projects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you actually did that, right? You had your side project. So it sounds like when you made the decision to leave, it was pretty calculated. You already had like a book of not book of business, but a book of success that you can fall back on. And so it sounds like when you're going through the weeds, grinding, not only for like the sales job, you're also kind of, I guess, did you know that you were getting ready to potentially leave door to door and like start? And that was like always the end goal. And so that's why you were so focused on doing whatever it took to get people out of your life. And
I don't think so. Like, when I was at Proof, my goal was to be at Proof for a lot longer, right? Like, I had positioned myself to succeed with the company as it grew. They're in an awesome spot financially and do things the right way, in my opinion. Pest control, like, more so than most companies out there. But yeah, it just kind of naturally progressed to the way that it did. They got to a point where they came to me and wanted, more out of, the role, and, me full well knowing that 100% I agree. But also, it's just not me that's going to be that guy, right? Because of all these other factors. So it was actually a very like mutual leaving, and it was a very good situation. But no, I think that what it came down to is I don't know. I've always been the guy that like can't wait to wake up the next morning. I stay up late. I wake up early. I like just truly enjoy life and all that life brings. And so I think when you have that mentality, you can just do a lot more. You can get a lot more accomplished, as opposed to, I got to get through this day so I can go home and relax and, play my Xbox or watch Netflix or, just chill. And it's like, for me, I get to that point after I've done like everything I want to do and like just can't go like any more than I love just kind of like relaxing and sitting down. And so,
Nice.
I think it comes down to just that, that joy of life, that kind of just being grateful for all the things that I have in my life, and it enabled me to do a lot more. And so the prospect of doing even what I was doing, the two for long periods of time, it didn't stress me out. It was something that I was totally like willing and wanting to do.
Yeah. Well, you said something a minute ago that kind of resonated with me a little bit, is that it took, like, you were grinding super hard even when you left Proof. Where you were probably working even harder than when you were at Proof, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I feel like that's a huge misconception that people think like they get to a point where they can go into entrepreneurs and they can start their own thing. And like, oh, it's going to be hard. But it's going to be better because I'm leaving the job I don't want to be at. It's like, yeah, in a way, sure, you're leaving the job that you don't want to be at to do something you do want to do. But I feel like people grossly underestimate how much work it takes to get that going. And so I guess, what were some of the trials or some of the things that you weren't expecting that came up as you were starting Uncommon Education?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the cool things about our business is that, for all intents and purposes, like, I believe from a starting a business perspective, it went about as smooth and as easy as it could go.
Nice.
Few reasons for that, though, which, call it what it is, but I believe that I have a lot of errors and flaws in how I operate, but I'm aware of that. So one of the first things I did was I found someone to buy in, with like good ownership in the company that was over legal, finance, tax, all that, because I know that that's just not my thing.
Yeah.
We then brought in another individual who had built and sold a company, who I knew would just kill it with our marketing, our back end, kind of the image, right?
Yeah.
Then brought in a fourth owner who was going to be over like sales and kind of the growth aspect of the business. So if I had been, in my opinion, greedy and like most people, just like hoarding their percent ownership, like, it's just their birthright, it's their child, I can't get rid of any percent. And so many entrepreneurs I meet, and that's like their mentality. I'm like, dude, you are not going to succeed. It's just, you have such a small mindset. Where again, for me, it's like, I would rather have a good sized piece of a massive pie than the whole pie, you know,
this tiny little project.
Yeah, of this little project, this little hobby.
Yeah.
And so I think that by doing so, it helped relieve a lot of the stress that normal like solo entrepreneurs go through. I still obviously had done a lot of that legwork on my own.
Yeah.
But you just gotta do that. Like people like talk about that first initial grind. That's like one of the funnest phases, right? It's like, cool. How do I set up a payment processor, right? I need to build just a generic website. Like, how do I do these things? And that's a fun part of any entrepreneurship. But like once it gets hard, or the things that could present difficult situations, I just did a good job of bringing in a team that, you know, to this day are huge reason why we're as successful as we are.
Man, that's amazing. And so I to get into the details a little bit more about that. So you leave Proof, and I guess you kind of started. Now, I guess were you knew that you were going to be doing day trading, and then like, did you know that you were also going to be starting like an education platform for other people right away, or did that take longer to get to?
So yeah, the day trading again, at the time that I left Proof, had been day trading for 6 years or so at that point. So I was already good, consistent, making money doing that. I had started on Common Education, I want to say like a year before that, before I left Proof. So I had started that before I had left Proof and left the sales world. But I mean, it literally started as me recording videos like on a screen and having my buddies Venmo me for the video. And like that's like how it started.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, I'm good at day trading now. And people like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, I'll just send you some videos. I'll show you how to do it. And then, it evolved into what it is now. So, it's kind of a funny beginning, but again, position myself where, I wanted to do both for as long as I could and was anticipating doing both for much longer, but Uncommon took off much faster than I had anticipated. And, the company I was VP of sales for, was wanting to, move in a direction of more involvement, more this and that, and just, not trying to, misdirect or, anything with anyone. I was like, hey, love it. Love the direction. I totally agree. I'm just not that guy. So like, if that's what you're needing, like we can figure out a great way to help find the next guy, and we can do what we need to do. So it was a good situation.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to, realize like, hey, I'm no longer the fit here, and I'm going to try something else. I mean, you said it kind of took off. Like, was it just word of mouth? Like, did buddies just tell buddies? Like, I guess proof is in the pudding. Like, if you're helping people make money and they're making money, then you're going to have a good business, right?
Well, that's what's so funny is when people ask, like if you knew what our ad budget was month to month, like the amount of revenue we're doing, it's shocking. Like we are spending nothing, right? Because it's word of mouth. And that's like such a cool thing for me is the business is where it's at because people are succeeding with it, right?
Yeah.
And you can imagine, like, if I tell you a few things today about day trading, you go make $1,000 in the stock market tomorrow, you're going to tell everyone, right? You're going to tell your friends.
And I'm going to be bought in. I'm like, give me more.
You're going to tell your buddy. So like it spreads like wildfire. And now it's to the point where, it's almost like figuring out how do we train and like do it in an effective way with the amount of people that are
have the controls in place, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, day trading obviously has lots of upsides and everything like that. I mean, if you're okay to, I'd love to hear maybe what are some lessons you've learned from some of these losses? Because I know in investing in general, I've done a lot of real estate investing, and I have done some stock market investing. I'll tell you this funny story. So I told you, everyone's pretty much got like a Robinhood, right? So I've got a Robinhood. Have you heard of the app called Autopilot? Yeah. So I was on Instagram and the dude that runs Autopilot got on there. And I was like, that's a cool story about, corrupt politicians, pretty much insider trading, which is so obvious. I don't know. Maybe it's not. This is obvious. Okay. So, that's my personal opinion. But
most are. In government. Yep.
So you got like this Nancy Pelosi or whatever, right? And so I download the app and I'm like, yeah, I've heard that she's been killing it. She was in the headlines. I think it was like a year ago or something. She was in the headlines. And I'm like, okay. So I download the app, I look at it, and I saw that she had just bought, I can't remember how much of NVIDIA it was, and that she just made a massive return. Well, luckily enough, I bought the app the day after they reported it, which 15 days or something like that. So I'm like, I got money just sitting in there because I was doing the thing where I put the money in the app, but I didn't invest it into it. And it was just in a brokerage account making 5%. Like, well, it's just sitting there doing nothing. So I invested, I think it was like 20 grand or something into it. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
pretty bold for me and just
For
not
sure.
doing this before.
Yeah.
And then it takes off. I'm like, this isn't too hard. No, I was just kidding. I was just,
This is easy.
I was
Easy
like, okay,
game.
cool. And then it was funny again because I think just about 2 months ago is when they had like another kind of spike.
Mhm.
Right before that, I was talking with another buddy, and he had shorted the stocks, or no, he bought futures
Okay.
for, I think that's what it's called.
Mhm.
I sound like an idiot right now, but it's okay.
No, you're good.
He bought futures for Nvidia or whatever like that years and years ago, and I knew that I wanted to invest more in it. I just hadn't done it yet, and I had already transferred the money to the account. So we're in the car, and he's a really nice, kind of like humble, shy guy, but he was telling me this story about how he just made close to $1 million on these futures that he sold. They had bought like back in 2010 or something like that. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. Do you think it's going to keep going up? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, watch this. And I already knew I was going to invest in it.
Yeah.
So I pull out my phone and he's driving. And I like do it. I bought, I think, I don't know, a few 20, 30, 40,000 or something like that more, because it was just sitting there doing nothing. And he was like, no, like don't do that based on what I said. And I knew he was going to do that. I'm like, no, don't worry.
That's hilarious.
I've been planning on doing this for a while. He was so scared.
Just thinks that you're going to drop that much money on a suggestion.
Yeah. And he was like, he was worried for like a good 10 minutes, and I wanted to ease his pain a little bit. So now with that being said, the scared mindset that he got in that brief minute there, when you're investing someone else's money, I don't want to say I'm careless, but I'm a little bit more forgiving of dumb mistakes that I make with my own money. Whereas when you invest other people's money, which I've done in real estate, and I have this experience where I'm like, hey, it's a lot more serious. And I don't know, there's people that say yes and no. People will say, oh, you'll always be more secure and more cautious with your own money.
Right.
But then there's other people that say that they're more cautious with other people's money. So kind of what are your opinions about investing with people?
So first question is, what did you do with those NVIDIA futures, as you call them? Do you still have them?
Sorry, the story wasn't too good. He was telling me a story about how he had bought those in 2010.
Right. So, but you invested, right, at that
moment?
moment?
Oh, no, not futures. I just bought the stock.
Okay, so you bought stock. Are you still holding it then?
Yeah, it's just in there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, NVIDIA keeps going up.
Yeah, so I'm like, I like look at it every like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just the kind of guy that doesn't like that he'll just invest and forget.
Yeah.
I guess because of real estate, that's kind of where my mind has been trained to do. And normally I'll never invest in something that I don't understand.
Right.
But I don't know. There's a little. I'm a gambler. I love to gamble.
Well, we can talk after this. I'll help you make sure that all those gains that you've made, you don't lose them.
Don't lose them. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll give you a few things we can do. That's funny. So remind me the question you'd asked. I didn't hear the conclusion.
No, you're
good.
You were really No, it's just sitting there. So yeah, the question I had is like, what is your opinion about the difference between investing your own personal money and investing other people's money?
So luckily, what we do, we don't invest people's money, right? Like we just teach the skill of day trading. And so you could argue it's like, well, yeah, you're teaching people, you're sending these potential setups each morning. Like, aren't you worried about like the outcome of the risk? But what's cool is like, no, because I know it works, right? It's I'm not selling snake oil, right? It's like, no, we produce day traders. Uncommon Education, that's what we do. You want to become a day trader? Like, come learn from a professional day trader, right? And so it's been really cool to see that, I don't feel that way at all, and we never have people complain like, hey, what did you do, this, that, because even they see how it works and they see what's good. And so really, as a day trader, the only way, if you have a strategy that works, which we do, if you have a system that is consistently profitable, which we do, the only way that gets screwed up is if you are the one altering variables, or you are the one that's saying, I know I'm supposed to take profit here, but I'm going to hold it a little longer because I'm a gambler, right? Or I know I'm supposed to exit for a loss here, but I think it's going to bounce back up, so I'm just going to hold on a little bit longer, right? It's like every person ever who has ever tried day trading, and it's hard. It's very simple, the concepts of day trading, but the actual skill of it is extremely difficult, and it takes a lot of time and practice to get to. So
we said something really just interesting there, like, okay, today you got to exit for a loss. So I guess it's something that they have to become accustomed to, like, hey, you will take losses and you got to be okay with that. And is it kind of like real estate and a lot of things, you only lose when you sell and then like exit the market kind of a thing?
So day trading and day trading options, which we do know, they have like a time limit. So you can't just hold it and hope that it like comes back one day. Like you only have, X amount of time for it to do what you want it to do. And if it
Oh,
doesn't, like, you can lose, the entirety of your position. So
wow.
what's cool about the way that we teach is people in life are really bad at losing, right? Like
Yeah.
when people lose, that's where, marriage issues come from. That's where, all relationship issues, that's where, business failures come from.
Yeah.
Anything in life that, negatively comes about, typically comes from some failure or some loss, right?
Mhm.
And so what it does, day trading, it teaches you how to lose properly and how losing is just part of life. Losing is part of the game.
Yeah.
And so one of the cool, like, kind of byproducts is how people's lives change when they become day traders, just
Yeah.
because it exposes these nasty parts about yourself, right? You're greedy, you're impulsive,
Oh.
you've got this, weird risk tolerance that you shouldn't have, or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
And so, yes, losing, and anyone who day trades who's listening to this knows, like, the only way you win at day trading is you just have to become a world-class loser. You
Wow.
have to keep your losses tight. You have to keep them small. You have to, make sure that your losses never, exceed what you would make on a trade.
Mm.
And so there's a lot that goes into it there, but 100%, if you want to be good at anything in life, you just have to get comfortable and okay with losing.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, do you guys use losing like in small forms as like an indicating factor that you're going to be successful, or like,
Totally.
hey, we've lost like a couple things here. Cool. Like kind of like in sales, it's just right around the corner. The next success is right around the corner. We've lost, boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it like gambling where it's like, well, surely I'm not going to roll another 7
No,
because you get in trouble if you do that in gambling. I know.
totally. So the best way I can describe it is, if you put, using our strategies, if you put $100 into a trade,
Mhm.
we already have, before the market, before we even enter the trade, we know that if it works out in our favor, we're going to make 30, 40, potentially $50 or more on
Mm.
that trade. Okay.
Yeah.
With that $100 we invest. If it doesn't go how we want, we are going to exit for a loss and lose $15 to $20. Okay.
Mm.
So if you have that level of a strategy and you have a 50% win rate, right? You lose $15, you win 50.
Oh.
You lose $20, you win 40. You
Mhm.
lose 15, you make 40. You're going to be extremely profitable, right? And what it's
That makes
called is
sense.
called a reward to risk ratio.
Yeah.
Most day traders know that that's really all that matters, is as long as your wins are bigger than your losses and you have a semi decent win rate, you're going to be super profitable.
Mm.
So what we have is that type of risk management parameters in place. And we have strategies where people will be correct 7, 8, 9, even sometimes 10 out of 10 times.
Mm.
So you have a really high win rate with that good reward to risk. That's where you can
Yeah.
make stupid money in the
Okay.
market.
I hope you don't mind that I keep comparing it to gambling, but up until now, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, and that's what most people think. And that's what's funny is, like, I love gambling. Like,
Yeah.
I very rarely leave the casino losing money, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is because
You
I'm
know.
doing the same thing as I am day trading, right?
Yeah.
It's just mitigating risk, keeping losses small. When you do, win and have a bigger win, it's understanding, okay, how do I distribute those profits? How much should I continue to risk, right? All
Yeah.
those things, which most people are very bad at.
What's your game that you play at casino?
What isn't my game? It don't matter. I mean, I love 21. 21's fun because
21.
there's like skill and tact to it, but like the best times I'll ever have a casino is roulette.
Oh,
You get me
okay.
on a roulette table and we get rallying
You're
with the
cranking.
crew. I've got
Yeah.
some wild roulette stories.
Yeah.
Maybe another time, but it's I love casinos for
Yeah.
sure.
You ever jump on the craps tables?
Oh yeah, craps is a blast. The problem with
It's a
craps is
blast.
it's very much a like big crowd game. So if you've got a big crowd, it's super fun. But like if you're
Mhm.
with a couple buddies, it's not
It's
as
not the same.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Blackjack is something a little more fun with that. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I live in Fort Worth now, and it's only about an hour and something minute drive up to good old Oklahoma border. And
Nice.
so,
There you
yeah, I get that. And I work in Oklahoma all the time. So, well, yeah, I mean, that's amazing. So it's obviously not gambling, right? There's lots that go into it. And, you mitigate the risk, the risk. And so it's almost like you have this playbook that you create. Does a playbook change often, or is it pretty much the same playbook, just different players kind of thing?
And these are great questions because anyone who's interested in day trading and like what we do at Uncommon Education, this is like a very like general guideline of what it is. So we have strategies where we call it like a checkbox entry criteria.
Hmm.
where we know if these 3 or 4 things happen with some level of certainty, the stock will go up. If these 3 or 4 things happen with some level of certainty, the stock is going to go down. And once those things happen, we enter. And once we enter, we have already preset, yep, here's where we're going to exit for a loss, right? If it doesn't work out, here's where we're going to be taking our profits. And I think that what we've done a good job of, and what 8 years of trading will do, is I've eliminated all the potential variables. So there's no situation that the strategy doesn't really account for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of if this, then that statements.
Yeah.
And so all it comes down is just getting really good at following that strategy, being disciplined and consistent to only enter when all the criteria are met, right? Which takes a lot of patience, which most people, again, are so bad at. Like people are like, yeah, I work hard. Yeah, I'm patient. Yeah, I'm good at losing. And then they become, day traders for a day or a few weeks. And they're like, I'm the most impulsive Debbie Downer, just like I am the worst person ever. And it's just kind of how it goes. When
you learn a lot about yourself when everything's on the line like that.
For sure.
Well, out of curiosity, so you said that you have like this kind of formula where people can kind of plug in and play.
Mm-hmm.
So with Uncommon Education, you talked about you like teaching them how to day trade.
Mm-hmm.
So are you teaching them how to like find their own patterns outside of what you guys do then? Or is it, okay, so it's not just like, hey, pay us and we'll show you what to do.
So the biggest difference I'd say with Uncommon Education and most day trading, either alert services or education platforms, most will teach you enough to understand how to like play, but they'll never give you the full sauce, right? They'll never truly teach you, because if they do, then you won't need them.
Yeah, why do we need you?
Right? Yeah. At Uncommon Education, that's exactly what we do, because I make my living off of day trading, right? Like if Uncommon Education stop tomorrow, like it doesn't matter, because I make my living day trading, right? And so what's cool is I teach it in a way it's like, I want to monetize it. Of course, I want to make money from all the work that I've put into learning this skill. Yeah. But we want to make people independent traders, right? Like we don't want them to just rely on my alerts or someone else's alerts. So the way we teach it, kind of our flagship program, or our top program, is our mastermind, where over 5 weeks, I walk them through A to Z. So setting up their broker account, what in the world day trading is, how the market works, the strategies, entries, exits, weeks of live trading together, helping them analyze and identify their strengths and weaknesses. And then by the end of it, they know everything that I know, and then it just comes down to practice. And then we have a community that they get lifetime access to through Discord, where I send 2 to 3 setups every day based on the strategies we teach. Yeah. We live trade together a couple times a week, give like trade teaching examples where they can ask and get feedback. So it's like ongoing help, not just learn it and then see you best later. Of luck. Yeah. And so, that's kind of how it works, which is so different, because most groups, again, they teach you just enough to kind of string you along, and then ultimately you're reliant on them. And we don't want people that work with us to be reliant on anyone, including us. Yeah. So,
I mean, what's the what was kind of the motivating factor behind that? I mean, it sounds kind of like pretty. I don't want to say selfless. I mean, I guess it's a way to a different kind of business model. But what was kind of the motivating factors behind actually like including people into the knowledge?
So when I started day trading, there was no noble purpose, right? I told you, it's like, what's the easiest, fastest way I can make money and not have to work hard, right? Yeah. And so that was that. Then Uncommon Education, that was more the noble purpose, where it's like, I grew up not having a ton. I have so many friends who are just in these 9-to-5 jobs or working summer sales that just hate their life. Like, don't let anyone fool you. People who door-to-door sales, I would literally say 90% hate it. Yeah. And the 10% that love it, there's only a few of them that are actually good at it. Yeah. Because there's people who love it because they love the camaraderie of the team, and they're terrible.
They're not even good at it. Yeah.
Like most of the people that I know who are like, really, really good, they actually hate it. And they're like actively seeking ways to get out of it. Yeah. And so,
I know, to add to that too, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I feel like the only reason why people stay in it, including myself, why we stay in it, is simply just because it's the thing that can give us the most freedom than pretty much any other alternative, maybe other than day trading. And so that's the tricky thing too. And it almost gets to a point where when you've lived with such a free and kind of abundant mindset for so long, people can't fathom the idea of going to something else.
No, it's so true. And and that's kind of what's cool about, I don't know, the way that I approach Uncommon Education is I will never, and kind of to answer your question, I will never let Uncommon Education be like a job to me, right? The whole reason I got into day trading was so that I could do whatever I want whenever I want.
Yeah.
And so like these masterminds, we only do one a quarter or like 4 a year. And we have demand that we could do one probably every 2 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
Just because so many people are interested in it. But we only do 4 a year, because anything more than that, and I'm feeling like I can't do what I want to do. Like this is becoming corporate America. It's like, no, that's not the point of this. Yeah. And so it's funny, like, and I think because people know that about me, they're more attracted to it, because they're like, they know I don't care if they work with us or not. And so like, it kind of like feeds the problem of it actually becomes bigger when I don't.
It's a huge pullback.
Yeah, it's just it's a funny thing, but ultimately it's the truth, right? Yeah. And like some mornings I'll tell people like, hey, I'm not sending plays today because I'm fishing, and that's the whole point of this, is so you can do whatever you want, right? Yeah. And they know that and they love it, and so I think that's a big piece of, I don't know, just my beliefs, I guess you could call them, is I want people to be able to live the life that they want to live, which is going to be different for every single person. Mm-hmm. Some people, it's day trading 1 day a week because they need like a little extra income to pay for bills. Yeah. Some people, it's day trading 3 times a week while they are a stay-at-home mom, because it helps give them purpose and, add funds to the family and, help with, potential trips coming up. Yeah. Other people, their goal is to do it full time, right? Totally depends on the person, but that's what we want to provide them with, is the skill to then make their life better, right? Because everyone, majority of people in life right now don't spend enough time with the people they care about. They don't get to do their hobbies, the things they love, as much as they want to, and are typically not making as much money as they want to. It's just, it's a criminal cycle that most people are in. So like, we're trying to free up their time, get them to, make more money, and just have like a better outlook on life. And day trading really does like accomplish all those things, which is cool. Yeah.
Do you feel like you've allowed yourself to be somewhat like removed from the outcomes of these people, or as you're training them and as you invest into them, do you find yourself like actually caring about their outcome?
It's really funny. Like, majority of my friends that I travel and do things with at this point are people that I meet through the mastermind program. Oh, and so I care greatly about their success. And again, that comes back to how I was in door to door. Like I genuinely care. And like, I take it personal. Like, I really don't want anyone to not succeed. Of course, that's going to happen. But like, for example, someone I talk to probably once a week, he's 77 years old, lives out in Minnesota, huge fisherman. I've never met him in person, but like, he did the mastermind, he's retired. He doesn't touch his 401k. He just lives now off of his day trading profits, and him and his wife are like traveling the world, taking on these cruises, doing things that they would never have been able to do. Right. Yeah. And we're like homies. We talk all the time. People I go to South America a bunch with to fly fish and, different parts of the world, met them all through the trading group. Cool. People I go on golf trips with very regularly, different parts of the country. So yeah, it's a huge benefit for me, is that I get to network with all these incredible, amazing people. Yeah. But like, literally as part of our mastermind process, like I speak to everyone who's like potentially going to do it, and I kind of like vet them to make sure that, one, I get along with them. Yeah. Two, that like they understand like what it is that they're getting into. Yeah. And so because of that, I just attract a lot of people, I think, to the group that I vibe with.
Yeah,
so,
no, absolutely.
I'm in touch with lots of our members outside of just, what we do online, which is super, super fun for me.
Man, that's amazing. It's really rare that you find someone who goes from like the sales space and a successful career in that, and then transitions into something that provides not only the income, but also the freedom and the success and the happiness that comes with it. And that's why I just had to have you on. I'm like, man, anyone who can pivot and transition like that and who are living a better life, they're a great example to other people.
Well, what's funny is when I first got married, I hadn't even done door to door yet. I was working as like an assistant golf professional at Hidden Valley Country Club in Sandy.
Yeah.
And
Hidden Valley.
Hidden Valley. I remember telling my wife at the time, came home one day and I was like, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I'm going to start at some point a business where I'm going to sell something online, and it's not going to be a product. I don't want any overhead. It's going to be some like knowledge or something. And I had not started day trading at this point, right?
Yeah.
But like I knew that like it made sense to me that like, yeah, like you'd be so profitable as a business. It'd be so nice. You could scale it to the infinity, right? And it doesn't change anything as far as the structure of the business.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a huge thing when it comes to entrepreneurship, success in general. Call it being a dreamer, call it having a vision, call it having very specific goals. Like you have to have that if you want something to like happen or come to fruition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even the VP of sales role, like I remember, it was like my second year in door to door. I went back and I wrote down a goal. Like at some point I want to be able to train sales reps on a company wide level, right?
Wow.
It was like second summer, right? Yeah. No team, no nothing, just like some rep, right? Who did pretty good his first summer and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think that like, I don't know, people don't give themselves enough credit when they get to these types of places. But the reality is like all of them have the same story. It's like, yeah, they knew they were going to be there long before they got there.
Yeah.
It's not like I just like got here because of luck and this and that. It's like, no, like I didn't know like exactly how it would happen, but I mean, this has been a part of the plan for years.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just think a big thing for anyone listening to this who is looking into entrepreneurship or in sales or not where you want to be, like you have to like literally believe it in your gut, in your soul that you can get there and that like you will get there before it even comes close to happening. And that's just
have the vision of what you want. Like it's almost like envision the lifestyle that you'd like to have. What does a perfect day look like for you? Write it down. What is the lifestyle that you want to have? Write it down. And then find a path to get there.
And the problem is most people do that in every stupid conference or whatever you go to, they tell you that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, like actually, like specifics here, right? Not like, the perfect day is I wake up and I get to hang out or whatever. It's like, no, what are you doing? Are you owning a business? Are you venture capital? Are you a real estate like mogul? Like, what are you? What is that perfect scenario, right? And so people just say it so half-heartedly and, they write down their dream. It's like, dude, don't give me that. Like, get specific. Like, what do you actually want?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's cool is like looking back, not knowing that day trading was even going to be in the picture. I was able to kind of fulfill that desire of like what I felt like a really nice life would be of owning a digital something business where there's no overhead, right? And, whatever you want to call it, my brain, my body, both were able to like kind of bring that about just because like I believe that that's what was going to happen. So you're exactly right. And it just takes getting very specific with what it is that you want.
Yeah. I mean, and not only being very specific, but the perks of being very specific are once you get to that specific, then you can start to voice it out loud. And that's one thing that I'm sure you did, right? You were telling people, hey, I'm day trading. I'm a day trader. I'm going to become a day trader full time. The more that you can voice that out loud, the more that it's going to come to fruition. Because sure, you're going to have people that doubt you, but then you're going to also have people that want to help you. And it's going to open up opportunities that you've never seen. I feel like so many people will just like have this dream or have something that they want to do, but they keep it inside and they think that somehow it's going to happen by their own merits. Like, listen, no one ever gets to where they are without some kind of a benefit. Like we didn't talk today much about like how you learned per se. And that would be something really interesting to know. But you learned somehow, some way through something, and it wasn't just because you kept it all inside, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's so true. And I just think, I don't know, I look back to even like Little League football, right? Growing up, like we were in the state championship at like 9 years old, I remember. And at school, me and all my buddies were writing on pieces of paper everywhere, we will beat so-and-so 28-0. Right. For like a whole week.
Yeah.
And we were just like, we're going to do it. Like, we're going to, and it's like, and we literally, I think we beat him. It was like 28-3 or so, 28-7. It's just like basically what we were. And so, that level of involvement or that level of belief really has to start like pretty early on. And if you don't have that part of your psyche, then it's something that you can definitely work on and improve upon. But yeah, I think that, and maybe I don't know, something that some people may not agree with in the door-to-door space is I think most door-to-door companies do a fantastic job of making reps like not believe in themselves, right? Like we want you to believe in yourself here, right? We want you to believe in yourself while you're working for us. Yeah. There's nothing better. Like, no, we don't want to go do your own thing. But like, I need you to be full belief in yourself but here, right, at this company,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, it is just shocking. I know so many people in the door-to-door space right now who are so talented, who are so good, so much better than me in every aspect,
Yeah.
right? And they are all working for someone, living a life they don't want to live because what they've been told for so many years in door-to-door space, and they bought into the culture, is that's it. That's where they.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem I have with the door-to-door space in general, and just like the whole model. Most companies, the company ceases to exist if the sales reps leave.
Yep.
So this whole idea or dream that you're going to get off the doors, it's bogus. It is literally a pie in the sky. It is not real. It takes such a just. I mean, there's a lot of luck, even with me getting to where I was able to, at Proof. And I just think that so many people have this dream or this vision that they're just going to work their way up to, I don't know, something to where they're no longer on the doors. Yeah. And, next thing you know, you're 32, 35, you've got kids, they're starting preschool, they're starting kindergarten, and you still have to go move out for the summer. You still are, and it's like, what do I do? And your alternative is, some tech job in Utah where, quite frankly, you're not going to be very good because it's not transferable. The sales skills, there's like aspects of it.
Yeah, like the sales part of it is, but you're not knocking doors.
No,
it's a different skill set.
So much more cultivating relationships, a much slower pace, right? Door to door. It's like you are the bulldog. You are getting it done. So I just think that, and I think I said this with Corey when I was talking to him about it. I just wish all the door-to-door reps realize how good they actually are, because none of them do. Yeah. No one, I could name 20 guys in the door-to-door space right now that if they quit today and went and started whatever, doesn't matter what they started, just something that they felt passionate about, good about, they would be multimillionaires, living their dream life, but they are so just stuck.
They're just enveloped in that
and suppressed at these door-to-door companies that they'll never leave. And it's really sad to see.
Well, what happens is that they kind of assume the company as part of their identity as well. And unfortunately, I fell into that when I was at Vivint. And not that there's anything wrong with Vivint. It's just I was way too invested in Vivint as being a part of my life personally. So when I finally decided to leave, it was a very hard time. It was a hard time. But ultimately, I ended up doing well. And I think to your point, what you're saying is, even if that first initial thing that they do isn't the thing that makes them the millionaire, it's these guys have so much talent and skill and so much grit and tenacity that it'd be the next project or the next project. But they don't realize that through their relationships, through their skills, and through their abilities, all they have to do is take a risk. See, what happens is after a few years, and after a few years, let's say 4 or 5, whatever summers of being in pest and sales door to door. And actually, I'm going to even talk to guys that do software sales. After you've been in some kind of a position in sales for, let's say, 4 to 5 years, you think that you're risking and you think that you're taking risk by doing the job. It's not a risk anymore. You have a proven, how many doors you got to knock roughly, what you got to do. For me, most of the guys that I talk to, I'm like, dude, if you wanted to just make 200 grand this year, you know exactly what you need to do that. If you want to make $500,000, you know exactly what you need to do that. Maybe you'd underestimate it a little bit, but you get really close.
Sure.
And the funny thing is that it's not risky anymore. You want risk, go do something entrepreneurial or go do something else. That's the risk, and that's where the reward is. It's always where you actually are taking massive risk, you get a massive reward. I feel way too many guys think that if they just stay, because they're told so much that door-to-door is hard. And don't get me wrong, it is hard, especially for the first few years. But after that, the reason why it's hard, and one reason why we love Corey Clark, shout out Corey Clark, is because he kind of shows people the reason why it's hard is not because the job is hard. It's because you're out of alignment, man. You're not doing what you feel like you're meant to do. You're not doing what your ambitions are, and you're in a job that you hate. That's why it's hard. It's hard because you're mentally not there. And so me and you agree on this full-heartedly, where it's man, if all you got to do is if you take a risk into a certain part of your life, an ambition that you have, people would just be so shocked with how it doesn't feel like you're taking a big risk per se because you're doing something you love. And even if you are taking a risk, you don't care anymore because it's something that you love to do.
Totally. And few things that I always say is the reason Uncommon Education has worked and has done so well is literally like I have failed more than most people will ever try. Right.
Yeah.
Like I have failed more times with businesses than most people will ever try to start something. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like I can go through so many businesses that I've started that haven't like worked out or because of time, this, that. And so you have to just, you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to put, put something like at risk. You have to be willing to do something that is of yourself, and what I tell people is, if they're like, hey, do I know, am I ready to take the jump? Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you imagine there's an island, like let's say, I don't know, 50 miles off the coast of Florida, right? Mm-hmm. Just some tiny island out there. And it's like, you're stranded there, right? There's some stuff on the island, like whatever, but it's like you and like a couple people are there.
Yeah.
Like if I said, would you be able to figure out a way to get back to mainland Florida, 50 miles, if there was 50 miles, like, do you like genuinely in your heart of hearts believe that you could like figure out a way, like life or death, you could get back over there? Mm-hmm. If the answer is yes, quit your job, start entrepreneurship right away. Right. Like you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. Yeah. Right. It's like, hey, if you don't figure it out, you're going to die. Right.
Yeah.
On this island. Yeah. But if you do figure it out, it's going to work out just fine.
Yeah.
And so I don't care if
I like that analogy. Like you're going to die on the island.
Yeah. You're going to die on the island. And so literally, I don't care if you have an idea. I don't care if you even know what business you want to get into. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, feel like you're meant for more in door to door and you in that scenario, you're very confident, like, yeah, I could get myself off of that island. Mm-hmm. Literally, you should quit your job right now and go start something, right? Because you will figure it out. Because that's that survival instinct. That's that entrepreneurial spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And some people don't have that. Some people will be like, I don't think I could. I'd probably die. It's like, you probably should stay
where you're at.
And that's totally fine because
keep it as a side hustle. You know, keep it as like a passion project, a hobby, something
100%.
Yeah.
But if you're wondering, am I ready? Am I not? If that like scenario rings true, because like to me it's like, oh my gosh, of course, like I'll figure it out, like, and it's like this ignorant, because it's this super ego driven, ignorant, almost like not warranted self-belief, like of course I get off that island, but like I don't have survival skills, I have a little bit, I traveled, do some gnarly stuff, but like I have no reason to believe that I can get to the other side. I don't know what supplies I have on the island. I don't know what I have, anything, right? Yeah. But it's just, I know in my heart of hearts that I could figure out how to get back 50 miles to shore. And that's what you have to like truly believe as an entrepreneur. Yeah. So anyway, that's
well,
people
I love
who
that
ask
your
me,
story.
it's a good way to do it.
I love your story too, because you weren't initially at that point, right? I mean, you are, I guess the opportunity that you had of being in the door-to-door while you were learning the trading platform. It was a greater opportunity than if you just left right away, right?
Totally.
And so that's kind of the funny thing too, is like, hey, if you have something that's on the side right now, you don't feel like you're at that point now, well, just give it some more time. Try different avenues, try different things. And you'll know when you're at that time. That's what that's what people have said a bunch of. So
totally. And I think Joe Rogan talks about it on one of his podcasts. He's like, really all you need is you just need a window, right? You need enough of like a base idea, skill, whatever, enough money where it's like you can give yourself this kind of 2 to 6 month window to just go all in. And then if you get that window, take it, because that's really all it takes. And anyway, it's funny to look through it. And I have so many friends in door-to-door. A lot of the credit, or a lot of the success I've had at Uncommon Education comes from door-to-door, the sales skills I've developed there for sure. Yeah. But I just think there is hundreds of managers out there who are feeling exactly how we're feeling now. Yeah. And I just wish I could go up to every single one and be like, dude, leave, go start what you want to. Like, you will be so mad. Like, now looking back, I'm like, dude, I am so stupid. I should have literally started this after my 3rd year of doing door-to-door. Right. Like I should have just dove all in, imagine where I'd be, but there will always be that. So just
trying to mitigate that feeling as little as you can. Saying oh man, a couple years, oh well, instead of like, oh man, 10 years, 15 years.
Mhm.
Holy cow. So
Fun.
I love that. Well, honestly, I got to hear that roulette story some other time. I'm excited for that. And
Cool.
please help me to figure out what to do with this NVIDIA stuff.
Sounds good.
But thank you so much for coming on and just kind of sharing your story and sharing the things that you've learned as you made this process. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Okay, awesome.